What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today I'm going to be doing a little video on what I think they'll do with Princess Leia in episode 9. I had a question in the comments by Richard Kinkeed. Sorry, I don't know how to say your last name, but he asked me what I thought they would do and whether or not it would affect Kylo Ren. I began to answer and I thought maybe it'd be a little more interesting to put this into a video because I'd never really thought of anything that I thought would actually be a good idea. It's something that I believe is very kind of important to handle very carefully and can be done inappropriately or just not sufficiently enough to respect the character. And I haven't heard anything that has really given a proper answer. And so I like this idea. I figured I would throw it out there, answer his question, and I know a lot of you will give a lot of other ideas that hopefully will expand upon my idea and just make it so much better. The first thing is, I believe in the crawl you've got to address her death. The two things that I will kind of key in on is that it needs to jump 5 to 6 years forward. It needs to reference that she didn't just die. I don't want this to be her funeral. If there's a funeral, you kind of need to answer why there's not an open casket, why you're not showing her. If you answer that with she was like blown apart, that doesn't quite respect the character. I feel that kind of just seems bad, and that she ends in some weird explosion type thing. So you mentioned that she died a year ago, that she died on a mission that she had been bringing along over the past few years, because we know how Last Jedi ended, that the Resistance was basically down to nothing. And so you explain in the crawl how she's been going across the galaxy, reaching out to everyone that she could find and trying to draw everyone in, and she had begun to build up this resistance over time. In the middle of all of her work, building the resistance back up and bringing all of the allies that they could find, again, I don't have an idea right now, but something happened, and you don't even have to explain that in the crawl. You just explain she died a year ago. She's been building up the resistance, and the resistance is now back up to a point that it's at least in contention of some sort of dealing with the First Order. Then it pans down. I thought of this idea because in the comics, Leia actually used pieces of the destroyed Death Star and sent them to Alderaan, and they actually built back kind of like this spherical place for all the survivors, not survivors of Alderaan, but I guess people that were like vacationing somewhere else, so that Alderaan could actually still exist, ironically using the extra parts from the Death Star that was left over. I don't say pan down to that, even though I think it would be kind of, a good moment to connect on Alderaan, but it would look kind of cheesy because JJ would be coming back, and I believe it was like they built it back similar to the Death Star, and you don't want another Death Star. So figure out some other location. I'm not sure where would be best in that. You may come up with something. If you do, comment it down below. But it pans down to that, and they're having a ceremony. It's the 1-year anniversary, and they're honoring Princess Leia. So it opens not with her funeral, but a moment of honoring her. We don't want to put a negative and cast something too sad over this. Leia, Princess Leia, General Leia, and even Carrie Fisher, as a person, would want it to be kind of something that would push everyone forward, a hope, an inspiration of everyone to come, and that's what I want to do here as well. So that's why she died a year ago, and they're honoring her, and as they're honoring her, they're erecting a statue of her, and they're having a huge celebration as all of the people that have come together from the resistance that she's been building back up to honor her as the year after she died. You could have, if you wanted to, I don't want to go too much into a lot of different things, but you could begin to hint some of the stuff that's changed. You could begin to show relationships if that's what you want to do, or you could show whether or not Rey's been building up another Jedi, a Jedi school with some of the text. I don't want to get in, but this is a situation where you can begin to show some growth of the characters over the 5 to 6 years. And I think it would be very good to kind of start with a speech from Lando. And Lando can begin to talk about how he was brought back into the Resistance and how he was kind of brought in, and the first thing that he remembered was her when he saw her on Bespin, and how she was just ready to go from the very beginning, that she pulled no punches, that she went right after him, but he always respected that from her. And the second she was freed from those cuffs, she just took control, and she was like, I'm flying, let's go. And from that point, he knew any time that she ever asked for help, he was going to jump in, because he knew she was a leader. And I think that speech, and then adding in the character of Lando back in to give that speech, would just be a very beautiful moment. And then I think the last little touch that could happen is, as they're kind of revealing the statue, you could have Chewie doing his kind of scream, like the yell that kind of happened at the end of A New Hope, and it would you could kind of mimic the visuals of that as just a nice little memory of where she was at the top, and you could have Chewie there, and maybe Poe as he's the new leader of the Resistance. And I think one last thing that'd be a really nice touch is they hand out these either pins or patches that would go on all the Resistance members, that would be an honor, respect, to always remember the leader of the Resistance. Always remember Princess Leia. I don't know what that would be off the top of my head, but something that they could all pin on themselves. And I think it would be a nice touching thing that as the story goes on, you could get into a moment of struggle, of something where a group of soldiers are pinned down. They don't know what to do. They want to give up. They don't think they can survive. And that's when you have a moment where either a pendant or a patch or something that they've got on them, they can begin to look at that and hold on to it, and you can have this moment of like they're inspired to go forward because Princess Leia did this, and she was never stopping. Even in her older age, she continued forward, and she died for the Resistance, and they've got to keep that faith and that passion and desire to fight for what matters. And then they go on and continue the fight because of being, kind of restored or built up by the thought of Princess Leia. And I think those little touches in the movie will give her influence over the movie and show that she still matters and is very important to everyone going forward. So she's just like they kind of had Luke as kind of a legend that inspires Jedi. Leia is going to kind of have this important connection, and all of the soldiers of the Resistance are going to always view her with such awe and respect that she deserves. That's kind of my idea for how to kind of pepper Leia into the movie. Start it with her. Let's start with that. Let's show it. Don't skip it like we did with Han Solo's thing. Show it with Leia. Deal with it right off the bat. And skip a year from her death so that it's a celebration of her life and what she did. If there's other speakers that we could have come up and speak, that's fine too. I just think Lando would be the perfect one. And then connecting it with, at some point, they use the pendant or the patch or whatever is given out to the Resistance, that some of the soldiers that we see then can use that as inspiration to keep on fighting and possibly win the battle. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I look very much forward to hearing some of your thoughts and comments.